Symmetry Automotive Code 2021 ended in a way no one anticipated. The D-Language Foundation has hired a new pull request and issue manager. D 2.099.0 was released with a huge number of changes and bug fixes. And DConf is finally returning to the real world. The fourth and final milestone of the Symmetry Automotive Code 2021 wrapped up on January 15th. Now, if you aren't familiar with SAOC, it's an annual event sponsored by Symmetry Investments in which participants agreed to work at least 20 hours a week over the course of 4 one-month-long milestones. At the end of each of the first 3 milestones, a panel of judges evaluates the progress of each participant. Those who are judged to have passed the milestone receive a $1,000 payment. Those who fail the milestone, well, sometimes they're removed from the event, but often they are given a reduced payment and a warning going forward. For the 4th milestone, the judges evaluate the overall progress of each of the remaining participants and select one of them to receive a final $1,000 payment and a free trip to the next real-world DConf. SAOC 2021 had an unusual ending. It's the 4th edition of SAOC, and it's the first time our judges had a split decision. At the end of milestone 3, only 2 participants remained, Teodoro Dutu and Luis Ferreira. And at the end of the 4th milestone, 2 of our 3 judges split. One for Teodoro, one for Luis. The 3rd judge was unable to come to a final decision. So he took a proposal to Symmetry Investments. Why not award a final payment and a free trip to DConf to both Luis and Teodoro? Symmetry approved, and now Teodoro and Luis have each received a $1,000 payment and will both be joining us free of charge at DConf 22. Congratulations to both of them. Additionally, 2 of our past SAOC winners, Roberto Guzmanino of SAOC 2019 and Robert Aaron of SAOC 2020, were unable to attend DConf in 2020 and 2021 because we couldn't have DConf due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So both of them will also be joining us in London for DConf 22. We're looking forward to meeting them. In January, we announced that we were looking to fill a vacant position at the D-Language Foundation. Last year, Symmetry Investments sponsored 3 positions, one as an assistant to me. That role was filled by Max Houghton. The other 2 positions were for pull request and issue managers. They are responsible for managing our issues database and our pull request queue to make sure things move as smoothly and efficiently as possible. Razvan Nitsu was hired as one of the pull request managers. The person who was hired for the other job was unfortunately unable to continue on in the role due to personal issues, and so it remained vacant for most of 2021. Symmetry agreed to continue funding all 3 positions in 2022, and so we announced that we were looking to fill the 2nd pull request and issue manager role. And at the end of February, we announced that we found the person to fill that role. Dennis Corporal is our new pull request and issue manager. He jumped into the job on March 1st. So congratulations to Dennis, first of all. But I want to point out to the D community, Razvan and Dennis are here to solve issues. Now, without input from anyone else, they have their own way of prioritizing which issues to fix, which pull requests get priority, and so on. But they are there for you. So if you have a Bugzilla issue that is really bugging you, or if there's a pull request that you think has fallen through the cracks and isn't getting attention, that you would like to get attention, please let them know. Bring it to them, and they will do what they can to get the issue resolved. One way to do that is with hashtag #DebugFix on Twitter. Post a link to the Bugzilla issue with the hashtag #DebugFix in the tweet, and I will make sure that Razvan and Dennis see it. Or you can bring your issue or pull request to the D forums, to the general forum. Just create a thread there and put the issue number or the pull request title in the subject, and add debug fix. You don't have to use the hashtag here if you don't want to. Message bodies do support hashtags, so you can put debug fix here, and when you post it, there will be a link to other posts with debug fix in the message body. But in the body, please be sure to put the link to the issue or the pull request. And when I see it, I'll make sure that Dennis and Razvan see it if they haven't already. And alternatively, you can post a message in the D Language Code Club. That's the D Community Discord server, perhaps one of the programming channels or the random channel. Wherever you post it, just please make sure to tag me, MD Parker. I don't believe Razvan and Dennis hang out here. I don't know if they check it sometimes. So just tag me and link to the pull request or issue. And you don't have to put debug fix here. Just as if I see my name, I'll see the message, and I will make sure that Razvan and Dennis see the message also, and they will get to it as soon as they can. That's what they're here for. So please make use of them. The D 2.099.0 was released on March 6th in the form of the latest release of DMD, the reference D compiler. It comes with 20 major changes and 221 fixed Bugzilla issues from 100 contributors. Now, those are bigger numbers than normal, and the reason primarily is because the release was delayed for quite a while, so it accumulated a lot more bug fixes. But even so, that is a trend for the last several major releases. We had 160 for 2.098. We had 144 Bugzilla issues fixed for 2.097 and so on. And that is largely attributable to having pull request and issue manager on the job. And we expect that with 2 people doing that job, we'll continue to see these numbers increase as time goes by, as our Bugzilla database and our PR queues get cleaned up. Some highlights from this release: work has continued on the import C compiler, and a feature that Walter is quite proud of, it is now possible to import modules in C source code with the import C compiler. Obviously, this is not part of the C standard. This is an import C compiler extension. It introduces the __ import keyword, and you can use it to import either a D module, like in this case, we have d_say_hello.d, which is a normal D module. And here we're using a selective import for putS from the standard IO module in D runtime, again, a D module. And you can use it to import C modules. Now, C modules are not a thing outside of import C, but what happens is when import C compiles a C file, like this one, c_say_hello.c, it creates a module that is compatible with D modules. So this is how you're able to import C programs into D. The compiler creates the module, and you use a normal import declaration in your D code to bring the symbols in. And now you can do the same thing with both C and D source modules in your C source code when it's compiling with import C. Now, obviously, you can't import modules that are compiled with C compilers because modules don't exist in these C compilers. In that case, you would be using your normal #include directive, and you will have to pre-process it with a C preprocessor. Currently, that has to be done manually, but plans are in the works to have that automated so that when you compile a C source file, the compiler will handle the pre-processing for you in some way. But anyway, this is a pretty cool feature. I mean, look at this. You have a C source file and a D source file, giving both to DMD, and you get a working program importing modules into C files, or in this case, 2 C files being given to the D compiler that are then handed off to the import C path in the compiler. And again, you get a working program that imports C and D modules. That's just cool stuff. Another new feature in this release is the throw expression. Now, for all of D's lifetime, throw has been a statement. You couldn't use it as an expression because expressions must have a type. And since throw doesn't return a value, there was no suitable type to assign to an expression. So that means that in this kind of Lambda syntax here, where you have to have an expression, this throw is illegal. It wouldn't work because throw is not an expression, it's a statement. It required using this form with the additional braces instead of this syntax here. But the thing is, dip 1034 which introduced a bottom type to the language, was approved. And in DIP 1034, there is an explicit mention of the limitation of throw statements with this lambda syntax, and how the bottom type introduced by the DIP makes it possible for throw expressions to be a thing. When a throw statement is seen as an expression returning the bottom type, the following example will work. This is the example that didn't work before. It works now as of D 2.099.0. Another big change in this release is that PECOF, the Microsoft version of the COF format, is the default output of the DMD compiler. There's a lot of background here as to why that was not the case already. For years, the default output, if you compile with no switch specifying otherwise, the default output was OMF, the OMF object format. And this is related to the fact that when Walter started working on D, he already had a C compiler backend and a linker that both worked with OMF. It allowed him to provide an out-of-the-box experience on Windows that didn't require the additional installation of any other tools. Now, today, it's no big deal for many people to download the community edition of Visual Studio so that they can get the C and C++ build tools, which provide the linker, and the Microsoft SDK, which provides the link libraries for the Win32 API. And all of that is in the COF format, the PECOF format. But in the late 90s, the early 2000s, that was not the case. The development culture on Windows is very different than it is on other platforms where you can expect to have a system linker installed or where it's reasonable to install one. But that was just not the case on Windows. So Walter felt it was critical to provide an out-of-the-box experience where you download the decompiler and it just works without requiring you to install anything additional. What's the change? Now, what happens is the default, or when you pass -M32, no longer puts out OMF output. So what this means practically is that when you pass -M32 on the command line, or when you don't pass any -M option on the DMD command line, the output now is PECOF. -M32 now specifies PECOF. And again, -M32 is the default 32-bit PECOF output. The -M32 MS-COF switch has now been deprecated. It's still there, but it will be removed eventually. And now, if you want OMF output for some reason, and you want to use the OptLink linker that ships with DMD instead of the Microsoft linker or the LLD linker, then -M32 OMF will get you the OMF output, but that will be removed at some point. Okay, so don't rely on it. But if you need it for some reason, for some compatibility reason or whatever, you can use it right now. The M64 switch will continue to do what it always has and produce 64-bit PECOF output. This is possible because we still have an out-of-the-box experience. Several releases back, we added the LLVM linker LLD and some Microsoft Win32 API link libraries that were generated from the MinGW distribution. So these all have shipped with the DMD installation for some time now. And it seems like most of the bugs, the critical bugs that we know of anyway, have been worked out with that. So now it's possible to have a 32-bit and 64-bit PECOF DMD experience out of the box without installing the Microsoft linker and SDK. And that is a big deal. It's something that people have wanted for a long time, and that we're now in a position to be able to do that is just awesome. Goodbye, OMF. Goodbye, OptLink. It was great knowing you, but we're not going to miss you. Martin Kinklin released a beta of LDC 1.29.0. He announced it on March 10th, and this is based on the 2.099.0 release and includes support for LLVM 13. And you can go to the release log to see the details for that. But that was on March 10th. And very recently, just before I was ready to release this video, he announced the final release of LDC 1.29.0. Basically, it's the same changelog as the beta release with a few new additions, including support for LLVM 14. And this goes up to the D front end 2.099.1. And a beta for that was released not too long ago, but the final release was announced just a couple of days before I was ready to publish this video. So you can get the final version of both LDC 1.29.0 and DMD 2.099.1, both of which are current for the latest D front-end version. DConf returns to London August 1st through 4th, 2022. We're excited to be back in the real world, and it's thanks to Symmetry Investments that we are able to make it happen. They're hosting us again, as they did in 2019. Early bird registration opened in March, and it will continue until May 31st. To be clear, May 31st is the last day you can register at the early bird rate. That's a 15% discount off of the general registration rate for a total of $352.75 plus a 20% VAT, which is $423.30. The general registration rate is $498 total. That's $415 with a 20% VAT, and that begins on June 1st. So if you want to attend DConf, don't hesitate to register before June 1st so you can take advantage of that 15% discount. We also offer a discounted student rate. It's $120 total. It's a $100 base rate plus a 20% VAT. So if you're currently a student, please email social@dlang.org. Let us know, and we'll tell you how you can take advantage of this discounted student rate. We offer a discount for major open source contributors. It's a fixed $200 plus 20% VAT for a total of $240. This is not for just any open source contributor. We have a lot of open source contributors in the D community. They contribute to D, they contribute to other open source projects. If we offered this to any open source contributor, that would be almost everyone who comes to DConf. So this is for major open source contributors. Now, what does that mean? It's really difficult to provide strict criteria for that. If you want to know if you qualify for this discount, please email social@dlang.org and we will let you know. Now, both of these discounted rates are fixed throughout the registration period during the early bird and general registration periods. They do not change. They remain consistent. We also offer a hardship rate. If you don't qualify for any of the discounts and you can't afford the early bird or general registration rates, please contact social@dlang.org and let us know that you can't afford the DConf registration, and we will work with you to find a way to get you in. Our venue this year is CodeNode. They are a tech venue designed for digital, creative, and innovative events. We will have our talks here in their control room, which is on the first floor. It will be set up differently for us than it is in this video here. We'll have tables as usual for your laptops and places to plug them in. We'll also have access to the basement. This will be all hours for the whole time we're here. This is called the escape room. And they have ping pong and foosball tables here, plus lots of places for us to sit and chat during the breaks. CodeNode is located between Moorgate and Liverpool Street stations. It's just down the road from our 2019 venue, which was right next to Old Street Station. So any of the hotels that you stayed at in 2019, you can still stay at them in 2022 and be within walking distance of the venue. And so we have a list of budget hotels, a number of budget hotels within walking distance of the venue, and the estimated walk time between the hotel and the venue as provided by Google Maps. And if you click on any of these links, you can find the route is set up for you so you can get an idea of what you need to do to walk to the venue. And click on the hotel itself, and then you can find ways to make a reservation. This year, our guest keynote speaker is Roberto Jerozolimski. We're very happy to have him. You may know him as the head designer of the Lua programming language, and we're very glad that he accepted our invitation to speak at DConf this year. As is traditional, the other keynotes will be from Walter Bright, the creator and co-maintainer of the D programming language, and also Attila Neves, who is a co-maintainer of the D programming language. We're looking forward to hear what all of these guys have to say. And speaking of what people have to say, we put out the call for submissions in late February, and we will continue to accept DConf 22 submissions until May 15th. So if you have an idea for a talk, a demo, or a panel, please tell us about it. The worst thing that could happen is we don't accept your talk. But if we do accept it, then we're going to reimburse you for your transportation and lodging costs when you come to present it. And you don't have to pay the registration fee. Nothing to lose, and a free trip to London if it's accepted. Now, some people are hesitant or reluctant to submit a talk because they feel like they don't have anything to talk about. And I would like to point out what Ali Chirelli said in one of his DConf Online 2020 Q&A sessions. So I'll turn it over to him real quick so you can hear his answer.
Yes, so I use D at work, which I will mention in the talk. This talk is all only looking at my code and extracting certain useful pieces that I used in the code. I just wanted to share what is there. And let me take this opportunity to tell everyone that making a talk is as simple as that, or coming up with an idea for a talk is as simple as the way you use D. Just look at your code and it makes a presentation like this. It's hard work to make this slides later on, of course, but coming up with an idea is as simple as that.
If you're using the D programming language, then somewhere in your D code base is a DConf presentation waiting to be submitted. Please send it to us. Even if you've never presented at a conference before, or if you've never done any public speaking, please don't let that stop you. Several of our past DConf presenters have been first-time public speakers, and we have a very friendly audience. No one's going to give you a hard time about it. We want to hear what you have to say. We welcome you. When it comes time to submit the talk, you can find everything you need to know on how to do it right here at dconf.org. We've got suggested topic categories such as language techniques, tools and techniques, experience reports, etc. We've got our selection criteria. These are the items we look for in a submission. What makes one stand out above another. The more detail you can provide us, the better, particularly if you can provide an outline of the whole talk. That would be fantastic. And I should point out that this year, we want to keep our talks to no longer than 45 minutes. Traditionally, we've had talks that are 50 minutes long. This year, we want to expand the amount of time we have between talks to mingle and chat and hang out. Please do not think about giving talks less than 25 minutes, okay? Finally, we have our submission guidelines. This is everything you need to include in your submission. Please include all of it. Don't skip anything. And we expect that you send it to us in either a plain text format or one of the common rich document formats like PDF or DocX. Now, we prefer the plain text, but we're not going to hold it against you if you submit it in one of the other formats. So that's all the big news I have for you this time around. However, before I go, I'd like to remind you that the D Language Foundation runs on donations, and we have several different options for you to donate. Perhaps the most painless, the simplest way. If you shop at Amazon.com, you can go to smile.amazon.com and select the D Language Foundation as your preferred charity. We will get a small percentage of every purchase you make for items that qualify for the Amazon Smile charity. There are plugins for Chrome, Edge, and Firefox that will redirect you to smile.amazon.com every time you go to an amazon.com URL. This is not a negligible amount of money. We have raised a few $100s from this so far, and this is of tiny percentages of sales. I think it's like 0.5% or something. I don't remember exactly, but it's really helped us out. And so we encourage you to use smile.amazon.com if you shop at Amazon. And again, it has to be .com. It doesn't work for .uk or .jp because the D Language Foundation is not available through the other URLs. Being an American nonprofit, the D Language Foundation is only available at smile.amazon.com. You can find other options for donating at dlang.org/foundation/donate.html, including links to the places to donate via Flipcause or our Open Collective or through PayPal and so on. So that's it for me. I will see you at the next news update, either in May or June, depending on how much news comes our way. See you next time. Bye-bye.